Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, oh, you know how I feel. Reeds drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Oh, and I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom in the tree, you know how I feel. And this whole world is a new world and a bold world. Oh, me, and I'm feeling good. Oh, I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean. Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when the day is done, that's what I mean. And this whole world is a new world and a bold world, oh, for me. And I'm feeling good. Oh, I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean. Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when the day is done, that's what I mean. And this whole world is a new world and a bold world for me. And I'm feeling good. Oh, I'm feeling good. Oh, and I'm feeling good.
Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Swannanoa Valley. My name is Evan Yannick and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Unitarian Universalism embodies religious freedoms. We do not provide the answers of life's great questions. Instead, we provide a beloved community in which individuals working together and alone are encouraged to find answers that are meaningful in the context of their own lives. We draw upon all sources of knowledge, including experience, authority, intuition, reason, and faith, in the search for answers. Ours is a living, dynamic religion. We are always free to develop and change our beliefs as we acquire new knowledge and insight concerning truth, reality, and the meaning of life. And I welcome you to our congregation's online service today. I have one announcement. We are almost complete with our spring pledge drive for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. We have received 63 pledges, and I'm so thankful for everyone who has pledged to the future of our church. We set a theme of renewal this year, and I believe that our church will be renewed through this canvas drive and through the upcoming year. Last year, we received 97 pledges, so at this point, there's 30 or so folks that have decided to procrastinate a little bit, but I believe that they will come in at the end of this pledge drive and help us to reach our goal. Right now, we're about 65% of the way to the goal. And now let's hear from Reverend Michael and Jackie about what this church means to them.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank those people who have given so much of their time and their resources. Evan, where are we on the goals? Can you tell me?
We're just over 70%.
Just over 70%. So we have a lot to be thankful for. And I know for me, it's been a long year. And it gave me time to think about my good friends who I haven't seen, people that I have seen. But it made me think about, where would I be without this community? No, not just because I work here, but this is part of my community and a staple of my life. And this would have been a longer experience with the pandemic if I didn't have this community and my circle of friends. And so I'm very grateful for that. And I want you to think about that if you haven't already, because where would you have been without this community since this pandemic? I want you to think about that. And so, but I also want to thank those people who have given, who have upped their pledges, and who continue to keep us where we are as a free, religious, liberal community. And so I just want to look at a few of our principles, not going to talk long, for a moment. And now all of us are much too intelligent to interpret references to a free church and a free pulpit, meaning that we don't have to pay for anything. And so in our fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the word responsible clearly indicates that the free does not imply no obligation. The second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. The fifth principle, which includes the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process in the world at large. The sixth principle, the goal of world community with justice and peace and liberty. These strike me as demanding a great deal of time and energy and creativity and money if we're going to follow through with these plans. And so we have dedicated members, we have dedicated friends who donate their time and money so that we can be here, virtually or otherwise. We stand on the shoulders of our religious ancestors who sacrificed their homes, their careers, their families, and in some cases, their very lives in order to commit to a faith tradition that would sustain them. Without them, we would not be here. And in the words of Dr. Howard Thurman, they hold a crown over our heads, which each day we are striving to grow tall enough to wear. Without their sacrifice, we would not be here comfortably among our peers, free to disagree openly with one another, to disagree openly with the UUA, to disagree openly with me, the minister. We would not be here if not for them. We know we support what we value. And so I just want to leave you with this. You have heard why people attend this church. You're going to hear why, again, from an individual here. You know better than anyone else why you're here. When time allows, I invite you, if you haven't already, to take the time to contemplate and reflect on what your life would be if this congregation was not here, if Unitarian Universalism was not in this world. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. May it always be so. Thank you so much for your generosity. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Hi, my name is Jackie Franklin, Greetings to you all. I've been a member of this congregation for several years, though my attendance has been somewhat sporadic because I have traveled quite a lot. But now I'm spending more time in Asheville, and I'm really excited to become a more engaged member of this congregation. It's springtime, thank goodness, but that means it's pledge time, the time of year when we have to spend some time to think about what we value, what draws us to this congregation, and to recommit ourselves to this church. I first found the UU Church about 20 years ago when I was living in Raleigh, and I was going through a pretty rough time, a challenging time of transition in my life. I grew up in the Baptist church and spent many years exploring various faith systems, but I really never connected in a full way to any of them. What drew me to Unitarian Universalism was the open-minded and open-hearted environment that allowed me to find my own spiritual path and expression within a caring and inclusive community, free from guilt, dogma, negativity, superstition, and oppressive patriarchy. Everything I heard about the 7 principles at the UU Church in Raleigh really resonated deeply with me. It took me a while to find UUCSV after I moved to Asheville in 2007. A friend told me about a smaller congregation in Black Mountain, and that really appealed to me, so I decided to check it out. From the first visit here, from the time I first walked in the door, I knew I had found a spiritual home, a caring and healing community that welcomes all, even those of us who are imperfect and unsure of what we have to offer. Here I find honesty and truth in all its forms, inspiration, courage, shared values, intelligence, acceptance, and of course, lots of humor. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but we do take very seriously being the best person we can be in order to make the world a better place. I am drawn by our amazing minister and worship leaders who offer intelligent, loving guidance and who open important conversations. I'm drawn by the loving covenant to support each other on our paths. Music is an important part of spiritual expression, and it's very exciting to see our music program growing so beautifully. The Current and Tidings publications keep us engaged and informed, and there are so many ways to connect with each other. Reading group, women's group, social action activities, committees who work diligently to keep things running smoothly, arts events, round-robin dinners, fundraisers, family activities, movies, discussions, and potlucks. Of course, there's also joys and concerns, which is an important part of our sharing. And this is what community feels like to me, and I was and still am very drawn to that most of all. I look forward to our being able to resume all of these activities face-to-face before too long, and I'm throwing out a virtual hug to all those in this congregation who have worked so hard to keep us all connected in spirit, if not in body. It's very inspiring to see how this congregation comes together to keep this sacred place vital and continuously radiating the positive power of life and love that is the core of what we are and what we do and what we believe. We spend our money on the things that we value, so I have already made my pledge. As a matter of fact, in preparing my remarks, I'm thinking I might even up it a little bit. As we are regularly reminded, I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And because I can't give a lot, I will not refuse to give what I can. That means giving time, care, and very importantly, money with a grateful heart. Thank you for all you do to support this congregation. I look forward to seeing your beautiful faces again soon.
And now, let our service begin.
Good morning. I'm Diane Graham, member of the Sunday Service Associates. Happy to be with you again. We are the group that plans the Sunday services if Reverend Carter is not available. Amid all the noise in our lives, we take this moment to sit in silence, to give thanks for another day, to give thanks for all of those in our lives who have brought us warmth and love, to give thanks for the gift of life. We know we are on a pilgrimage here for but a brief moment in time. Let us open ourselves here, now, to the process of becoming more whole, of living more fully, of giving and forgiving more fully, of understanding more completely the meaning of our lives here on earth. May our chalice remind us that the light at the end of the tunnel is coming. As it flickers, may it also remind us that going through that tunnel, we learned that nothing is guaranteed and nothing should be taken for granted.
This is hymn number 298, Wake Now My Senses.
It is a pleasure to introduce a speaker who has been here many times, and we enjoy having him as much as he enjoys coming here. I did not realize until recently that Marc Mullinax had been here once a month before we had a minister. A little bit about Marc: he lives in Asheville, teaches in the academic studies of religion at Mars Hill University. He studied written classical Chinese in Korea during his 20s and maintains both this and the Korean language in his many recent residencies in Korea as a professor of East Asian spiritual traditions. Marc's new book, Tao Te Ching, Power for the Peaceful, is now available at Amazon. Easily can contact me if you need his email. I am reading it presently and I'm finding it absolutely fascinating. Marc has his BA from Mars Hill College, his MA from the University of Tennessee, his Master's of Divinity from Southern Baptist Seminary, and his PhD from Union Theological Seminary.
The reading for today comes from my translation of Tao Te Ching, verse 25, called Greatness Everywhere. Mysterious but complete, pre-existing the universe, arriving soundlessly and formless, alone it endures without change. Whole, complete, untiring, and flowing through everything. It may be considered the universe's womb. If forced to name this, I utter the sound Tao, or worse, the way. Reluctantly, I describe it with the word great. It alone functions everywhere, calling all things back to their single source home. There's not much else to say, except to name four amazing things: Tao, earth, heaven, and anyone connected with Tao. In these four, the universe demonstrates its greatest traits. Know your interconnections. Human beings come from earth. Earth's patterns entwine with heaven's. Heaven roots in Tao, and Tao's blueprint is nature itself.
Some of us are weighed down by grief, fear, disappointment. Yet others have something exciting happening in their lives, even as exciting as getting the vaccine. Most people are very excited when that happens. Sharing these joys and sorrows and or concerns is an important part of our service.
I received an email from Susan Enright Hicks, which was comprised of 3 joys. She says that her father, who had been staying with her family since last October while he underwent treatment for bladder cancer at the Asheville VA hospital, has received news from his doctors that they have said the treatments have gone so well that he could return to his own home in Orlando, Florida to do his immunotherapy. This is both a joy and a little bit of a sadness for Susan and her family, who will have to say goodbye to her father. Secondly, Susan and Josh also just celebrated their 10th wedding anniversary, which was not the way they anticipated after 10 years, but they had a nice dinner at home. And lastly, also Josh's mom and stepdad are fully vaccinated, so they're able to be with them for Easter last week. So great news for Susan and her family.
Happy birthday to my mother.
Our meditation today is one that I did about a month ago and had many positive reactions to it, so I decided to do it again. I didn't write it, Rabbi Harold Kushner did. It's called A Prayer for the World. Let the rain come and wash away the ancient grudges, the bitter hatreds held and nurtured over generations. Let the rain wash away the memory of the hurt, the neglect. Let the sun come out and fill the sky with rainbows. Let the warmth of the sun heal us whenever we are broken. Let it burn away the fog so that we can see each other clearly, so we can see beyond labels, beyond accents, gender, or skin color. Let the warmth and brightness of the sun melt our selfishness, so that we can share the joys and feel the sorrows of our neighbors. Let the light of the sun be so strong that we see all people as our neighbors. Let the earth, nourished by rain, bring forth flowers to surround us with beauty. And let the mountains teach our hearts to reach upward to heaven. Amen.
Hi, we are Danu and Chelsea.
Racing, red faces, on the verge of losing it all. Deep breath in, begin again, getting ready to relax into the fall. Can listen fresh winds blow. Times change, river flows, little babies growing old. Tall tree seeds long ago fall when the wind blows. Earth underfoot's in motion, can you feel it in your soul? It's like the sands carved by the ocean, rearranging all we know. Great-great-grandmother's birth onto the cool dark earth. She knew the stories like the rivers in her hand. But then the witches burned, her children never learned, poisoned their mother and stole her sacred land. And now the storm rages, the poison is contagious, it's time to pay greed's toll. In generosity grows reciprocity, what's broken becomes whole. Old times change, river flows, little babies growing old. The tall tree seeds long ago fall when the wind blows. Earth underfoot's in motion, can you feel it in your soul? It's like the sands carved by the ocean, rearranging all we know. People power in the streets to defund the police, lift up the voices of those who've been oppressed. When we stand up together, our voices carry better. No moving on until this ancient wound's addressed. This is the generation, let go of being patient. The statues must come down. The hour's grown too late for glorifying hate, composted straight into the ground. Old times change, river flows, little babies growing old. Tall tree seeds long ago fall when the wind blows. Earth underfoot's in motion, can you feel it in your soul? Like the sands carved by the ocean, rearranging all we know.
Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love, its profession of faith, divine living, and joyful giving. You can see how to give. Since we can't pass the plate, you can definitely check out the website and see how to give.
Today's talk is called Earth Day Spirituality from Taoism. In Genesis 1:28, just after God has declared that we humans are made in God's image, we are then given tasks while on earth. In English, the phrasing goes like this from the King James Version, and most others as well. And God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. The words have dominion are the Hebrew words radah. The verb literally translates to rule by going down and walking among the subjects as an equal. To caretake for creation, as we imagine how God caretakes for us. But the translators of Genesis into the Greek Septuagint, the legacy of which has been made permanent in the resonance and authority of the King James Version, use the word kateriusate, which has been so unfortunately translated as lord against, control, subjugate. Oops, but it gets worse. Early Mesopotamian worldviews portrayed the human task is to claim our divine right to tame the monstrous chaos of nature. Ancient Greeks believed similarly. Plato, Aristotle held that the resources of nature are there solely for the use and advancement of humankind. The European Enlightenment spoke about the ascent of man over an abstracted nature, offering the creation to our imaginations as a machine that humans control, subdue, and put to our service. We have lost our appreciation for the intricate nature of matter and materiality. We turn nature into a thing. We thingify it. Things are its, not alive. Things we don't practice mutual relationship with. Things are valuable merely for their utilitarian worth. And so we're alienated from the matrix, which is a very feminine idea, the matrix that evolved and sustains us. Where there is alienation, exploitation follows soon thereafter. We are alienated from the weak, the voiceless, the earth, because we have told ourselves that it has no voice. Instead of the human search for integration with nature, there is struggle for dominance over it. To thingify nature is to start treating nature differently, as less than, which means we are simultaneously doing something different or less than to ourselves. Degrade nature, and human beings degrade. For the first time, we can honestly ask, is the human being a dangerous and even viable creature on this planet? With dominion over in our training, our consciousness, our thinking, our worldviews, we live in a world that we feel can be bought, owned, sold, divided, developed, exploited. No one questions anymore our overturning creation into a thing, an it. This is our story. Can we re-story it? Might we restore sanity to our consciousness? We can no longer ignore our primal relationship with nature, out of which, say, East Asian wisdom traditions, we emerge like apples from an apple tree. As you know, habits of a lifetime are nearly impossible to break in that person's lifetime. But habits of many generations, of many cultures, reading out of or into their most sacred texts that humans have dominion over, well, look at what arrogance has done. I shall not traumatize you again with the usual list of dire things and shameful neglect we have committed vis-a-vis nature. My life for the past 4 decades has been involved with Taoist texts, specifically Tao Te Ching. Earlier this month, my translation of Tao Te Ching was published by Fortress Press, a Lutheran outfit, but they took a risk on my countercultural approaches to this 2,500-year-old text. In this translation, I speak of a consciousness of social justice becoming a misfitting good troublemaker for good justice, and show how Tao consciousness is originally peaceful and just. From verse 34, called Quietly Flowing. Great Tao flows in every direction, brooding over and permeating the universe's every particle, all of which depend on Tao. Without noising itself about or making a scene, Tao disappoints not even one particle. Not needing to be in charge, with no other desire, Tao devotedly nourishes the universe's every speck. Each one has its home in Tao, yet Tao does not boast ownership. Many may regard Tao as insignificant, but it is actually great because it never claims greatness for itself. Not ambitious for greatness is Tao's greatness and secret. Taoism shares with all those spiritual-based traditions like Wicca, shamanism, pagan faiths, this understanding of how the innate and creative power of this world is embedded within it and not just transcending over it. We are originally inextricably connected to this power, webbed in, interdependent. And to do one thing to that web is to do the same thing to all of us, now and in the future. These spiritual traditions do not emphasize a place called heaven, like some other traditions you know about, but for many Western traditions, heaven is home, not here. This world is not my home, goes the gospel song, taking in isolation one single phrase out of Hebrews chapter 13. And so we have this cultural, generations-long habit of seeing heaven, not earth, as our true place and home, which has profound consequences. We can treat this earth like we might treat a hotel room, something that we can use as a temporary space, which someone else will clean up after us, and we don't have to worry about the stewardship of it, nor the people who work to make my stay possible. So what does Tao have to say about creation, our place within it, and our responsibility to creation? Tao is not a god, not a transcendent god of the world or ruler of heaven. No, Tao was, is, and remains the very energy of creation itself. Tao is never to be identified with just one species or just one moment in time. Tao has always embraced all, for Tao means the way the universe operates. The Te in Tao Te Ching, Te, is virtue or process by which Tao energizes all things. And to follow Tao's path is to take a transformational pilgrimage yourself. You see, the very same patterns and principles that characterize and govern all life and nature governs humans too. The blueprint for all creation is but one source. The energy of a plant is fundamentally no different from a human being. It's more a matter of degree and not kind. Therefore, teaching number one is that all social existence is social. No individualized or isolated parts of creation. It's we, not I. But in our dominion overthinking, we have formed a synthetic human-centered bias, which is to control a creation that we see as other than human. If we have no idea whatsoever what blueprints we violate in our aspirations to control, own, manage. If we see creation as abstract, with human beings standing outside and beyond it, ignorant of and uncooperative with nature's way or Tao, creation remains abstract, a thing, a nit, a voiceless tool, a dumb servant. But to follow Tao means awareness and the practices of mutuality and cooperations with nature or creation. From verse 29, which is called rhythm. Because Tao shapes nature, all things under heaven run by a sublime spiritual rhythm. Can you improve it? It's doubtful. Meddling only blocks the flow of Tao. Control is another name for lose. The understanding of Tao is the most feminine and most life-affirming wisdom tradition in the world, ever. Tao is compared to the very feminine ideas of womb, cave, a concave place of emptiness, a nurturer of all. Here's the paradox for us Western rationalists. We are taught that we must be rich. We must own, we must win, we must accumulate, build, grow larger and richer. Oops. The feminine understanding here is of emptiness. When we are full of ourselves, full of plans, full of acquisitions, there's no place for no thing, for emptiness, for silence. How many spaces have we where there's complete emptiness and silence? Ever been in a super quiet place and heard something new, but something that had always been there? Ever We get so used to filling our lives with things and not emptying. It's kind of like the hum of my refrigerator. When it kicks on, I get used to its low hum, and when it clicks off, the silence is now full of sounds that had always been there, but which could not compete with my refrigerator. The birds and the creek outside and its frogs, the purring of the cat in my lap. There's a lesson here. Not interfering with things as they already are is wisdom. Meddling only blocks Tao's flow. Hildegard of Bingen. Everything in nature, the sum total of heaven and earth, becomes a temple and an altar for the service of God. One of the main tasks in Taoism one of the main ideas in Taoism is the yin-yang concept. Balance of forces. You've seen the yin-yang symbol. Pairs of ideas that match, such as light, dark, hot, cold, action, inaction, high, low, inside, outside. These pairs work together, not competing or fighting. They work together towards harmony, balance. These pairs ultimately will disappear as opposing dualisms because everything in the universe is connected. Nothing makes sense by itself. Yin and yang are the web that holds all things secure. Ecology, wrote E.F. Schumacher in his classic work, Small is Beautiful. Ecology holds an environmental setting developed over millions of years, and it must be considered to have some merit. Anything so complicated as a planet, inhabited by over 1.5 million species of plants and animals, all of them living together in a more or less balanced equilibrium in which they continually use and reuse the same molecules of air and soil, cannot be improved by aimless and uninformed tinkering. So the problem is human-centered thought about dominion over, and our centuries-old, naturally high place in creation. This is unsustainable thinking. It's actually killing us, one species at a time. We're cashing in 1 billion years of planetary savings bonds and blowing it on assorted bling. It's almost impossible to believe that once you step out of the house and join several billion folks doubling down on the status quo. You see, when a species dies out unnaturally, part of what has made us has also died off. Pop religion has cast us out of the garden, unable to return with no natural way back except through a divine intervention of salvation. But even this calculation is of one's soul, not the body, not the material world that gave birth to your body. Nature, in that view, is something to commodify, something to be owned, something to be left behind. How does one commodify one's mother? Verse 48, Tao's math. Pursuing knowledge routine is multiplication. Pursuing Tao, it's subtraction. Prune, lose, diminish. Keep subtracting until there's no doer, no pursuing. With no pursuit and not doing, pure action shows itself. Keep your thumb on the scale, and it's meddling upon meddling. Get out of your own way and rejoin Tao's way. So let's pull the camera back and see us as a speck of creation that we are, ever in context and relationship, never separate. How to do that? Well, first, there's already feng shui, that energy and flow of landscape that always is meeting us. One thing I practice or try to, moment by moment, whether in traffic, at home, in the classroom, in the forest, is just breathing with the environment that I'm in. Not trying to own it, but to feel its energy, keeping my ego, drives, fears, and need to be seen and heard on the low down. It really works when I can remember to practice it. How else can you achieve a mutual relationship with creation where we honor the energy and totality of the whole and of oneself in the whole? I recommend this book by David Abram. The spell of the sensuous. David Abram. Abram reminds us that our natural state is to see all things as yourself, to act responsibly in a play that began before you arrived and lasts longer than your departure. Listen, play your part, and then move on. To own or to commodify are self-imposed taxes that limit our participation in what is by birthright already ours. Nature can take care of itself, thank you. Our meddling or ignorance are interrupters of its harmony. Nature's our Bible. It's our reset button. Before religions could articulate our human nature, we were already inextricably enmeshed in nature. Tao is already there, creating, active, holding things together, balancing. All we need to do is join in. Stop feeling ourselves above it all, as an onlooker, but rather a sacred piece of it. I know you already do this when you go camping and hiking, or just sitting on your porch or in the backyard. There comes that magic moment when you know that you're breathing with your environment instead of feeling your difference from it. Tao is ever present, never twice as sane, ever whole but in every particle, ever creative but custom made for that every particle. You can know this, and we need to. Finally, in a very Taoist move, let us stop getting educated in the ways that are not peaceful for nature. That is, we know quite well how to intrude upon nature and interrupt it, but we do not know how not to interrupt nature. So the poet Wendell Berry is our guide here with his message embedded in his poem, Manifesto, the Mad Farmer Liberation Front. It begins, love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay. Want more of everything ready-made. Be afraid to know your neighbors and to die. And you'll have a window in your head, and not even your future will be a mystery anymore. Your mind will be punched in a card and shut away in a little drawer. When they want you to buy something, they'll call you. When they want you to die for profit, they'll let you know. So friends, every day do something that won't compute. Love the Lord. Love the world. Work for nothing. Take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it. This poem continues, and I'm now just going to highlight a few instructional places. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance, for what man has not encountered, he is not destroyed. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant, that you will not live to harvest. Listen to carry on. Put your ear close and hear the faint chattering of the songs that are to come. Expect the end of the world and laugh. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. As soon as the generals and politicos can predict the motions of your mind, lose it. Leave it as a sign to mark the false trail, the way you did not go. Be like the fox who makes more tracks than necessary, some in the wrong direction. Practice resurrection. How very Taoist. Unlearn the ways that make for violence. Go countercultural with your practices, like a fox. Learn the vulnerable, crazy, unprofitable, and troublemaking interruptions of power. Lose your so-called carefully constructed, educated mind. Practice monkey-wrenching skills to forget the predatory culture of exploitation and unlearn how to be a go-along to get-along cog. Spiritual values and beliefs play their roles, yes, both in destroying and restoring, both in versing us, but also reversing us. We must see ourselves as the world, and the world is ourselves. This is a spiritual practice of cooperation. So what to do now? What to do? You cannot see what you do not understand, so start understanding your corner of the world. Your own body, for heaven's sake, is a cipher to the entire world. Grow your imagination. to feel mutual responsibility and accountability within your body first. It will teach you what you need to do and not do to be in balance with the world. Then look at that verse in Genesis that we overlook and need to find again. Chapter 2, verse 15. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to take care of it. It's not too late. There's this Chinese saying I love, when is the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Now. This is our great work. Creation or nature is already wise and complete. Nature is not red in tooth and claw. Our efforts to own, develop, disregard creation interrupts its processes. Nature already practices the wisdom of sustainability. Its processes have preceded us and will outlast us. There is another way to live.
This is hymn number 203, All Creatures of the Earth and Sky.
The closing words come from a Taoist text called the Zhuangzi. Men honor what lies within the sphere of their knowledge, but do not realize how dependent they are on what lies beyond it.
This is for my Scottish ancestors. In the Highlands, in the country places, where the old plain men have rosy faces, and the young fair maidens quiet eyes, quiet eyes. Where essential silence cheers and blesses, and forever in the hill recesses her more lovely music broods and dies, broods and dies. All to mount again where erst I haunted, where the old red hills are birds enchanted, and the low-grain meadows bright with sword, bright with sword. And when even dies the million tented, and the night has come and planets glinted, lo, the valley hollow, lampy starred, lampy starred. Oh, to dream, oh, to awake and wander there, and with delight to take and render through the trance of silence, quiet breath, quiet breath. Lo, for there among the flowers and the grasses, only the mightier movement sounds and passes, only winds and rivers, life and death, life and death. Only wind and rivers, life and death, life and death.
We would like for you to join us at today's coffee hour because Marc will be joining us. He is interested in hearing what you have to say about his talk today.
Perfect.